The UFC returns this weekend at the Apex, and it's not the worst card in the world, for an Apex card. I mean, yesterday's card over delivered, so let's hope we get another one of those. But let's start off with the first fight of the night, which is Gabriela Hernandez versus Julia Storilenko. This is actually sort of a tough one. Fernandez is coming off. She beat Kong Wang. This is the chick who beat Kong Wang. She did lose to Teresa Baeda, but she also lost to Jasmine Judavicius, but nothing wrong with that. She robbed Carly Judice. So this is generally a tough one, but I think the fact that she was able to sub Kong Wang, who's actually a very competent fighter, and Storilenko has only beat Molly McCann, really. And I think she got another win, actually. She chose Jessica Rose Clark. And Molly McCann, two of the only women who have no submission defense whatsoever. Fernandez is Brazilian. I'm going to hope she has some level of grappling defense and submission defense. So I'm going to go with Gabriela Fernandez. I'm not going to go for the random female underdog that I did. Because yesterday I did that and she got fucking smoked by Carosa. So I'm not going to just randomly pick women underdogs anymore. I'm going to pick who I think's going to win. Then we got Uros Medic versus Gilbert Urbina. I'm going to go with Uros Medic. I think he's going to brutally flatline KO Gilbert Urbina here. Urbina's good. He's not great, but he's not horrible. But, got destroyed by Trayshawn Gordrop multiple times in that fight. He beat Orion Kosuke, but Kosuke was one of the worst UFC fighters ever. He did drop Ryan Battle in their fight, which was impressive. But I don't know. I just don't think he has a very good chin. And Uros Medic is a fucking good striker, so I reckon he'll KO Uros Medic. And Radke also just brutally KO'd him pretty easily too. So I reckon Uros Medic very technical. I think he'll have a reach disadvantage here. Yes, he does. But I just think he's a lot better than Gilbert Urbina. Now, Urbina's been out for a while, though. Who knows? Maybe he comes back. And Gilbert Urbina, we're talking about Gilbert Urbina as a potential title contender. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. So I'm going to say Uros Medic by KO in this fight. Then we've got Jocelyn Edwards versus Priscilla Cachoeira. Oh, man, this is actually sort of a tough one. I mean, Jocelyn Edwards doesn't really get KO'd. She does get wrestle fucked, but she doesn't get KO'd, which is a good thing, because Priscilla, now one thing she's got is she has female power. She beat Chelsea Chandler, she beat Tamiris Vidal, she lost to Alian Perez, but she's got some solid wins, She only really loses to grapplers, and Priscilla is not a grappler. I don't think Priscilla can go out there and just wrestle fuck her. And if that's the case, I think this is going to go like a lot of Priscilla fights going. It's just going to be her getting wrestle fucked, maybe subbed. I mean, she's losing to good grapplers, don't get me wrong. I mean, she lost to Shevchenko. She did lose to Molly McCann. She lost to Luana Carolina. Lost to Jillian Robinson. Like, she's powerful. Like, she's very powerful, but she does get mauled a lot. And I think Jocelyn Edwards, she can grapple, and she got a rear naked choke in one of her fights. So I'm just going to go with her because she has a submission win. That might be enough to swing this in her favor. So I'm going to go Jocelyn Edwards, and I'll say by decision. I think she'll sub Priscilla. Priscilla will probably come out strong, throw some big meaty hooks, and then get taken down and get subbed eventually. Then we got Elijah Smith versus Toshomi Kazama. Now I think Kazama is coming off a win. Yeah, he is. Against Gregorio, who's pretty bad, has no gas tank. But before that, he got slept by Armfield, slept by Rinya Nakamura. And now Elijah Smith is fighting him, coming off that debut over Vince Morales. I think it was his debut. Or did he get... Yeah, it was his debut. Looked very good. Vince Morales is a step... This is a step down from Vince Morales, in my opinion. I think Toshomi Kazama is one of the worst fighters in the UFC, like bantamweight division. I just don't think he's UFC level. While Elijah Smith is really good. I've heard some good things about him in training. He's got some really good training partners, and I've heard he does pretty well against some pretty well-known guys. And, he did look good against Vince Morales. It was a back-and-forth scrap. I think he's got good cardio here, and he's a good striker. I think he will beat Kazam, and he'll probably TKO him. I see a TKO by Elijah Smith in this fight. Then moving on up, we have Julius Walker versus Rafael Sequeira. I'm going to go Julius Walker here. I just think Raphael is horrible. He's going to get cut after this fight. He's not good. He's just not a good fighter. He just hasn't shown up for either of these fights. I mean, Ibo Aslan just goes out there and immediately fucking chins him. And then the same thing happened against Modestas Bukauskas. He just backs against the fence, puts his arms up, and just eats big shots until he gets KO'd. That has literally been his UFC career. I don't even know if he's landed a significant strike, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm going to look this up right now because I generally think there is a chance this guy has landed less than 10 significant strikes his whole UFC career. And it really would not shock me, to be honest with you guys. Against Bukauskas, he landed 9 in that fight, but I think he landed 10 significant strikes his whole UFC career. In 2 fights, he's landed 10 strikes. He's gonna get fucking broken by Julius Walker. He's 35 years of age. He's not going to improve, and Julius Walker is actually really good. I thought he beat Alonzo Menifield. So I reckon, Walker, he's more of a grappler type of guy, but he can strike a little bit. I think he will just probably put out Raphael because Raphael's taking a lot of damage. So yeah, we'll go Julius Walker, TKO. Then we got Eric Anders versus Christian Leroy Duncan. I like Leroy Duncan here. This isn't old man Chris Weidman, this isn't an old man this isn't an Unkoff, this isn't Unk versus Unk. This is going to be Christian Leroy Duncan, a younger guy, going in there against an older guy. A guy who got dropped by Chris Weidman. Let's not forget, he got dropped by old man Weidman. Got hurt in that fight. And yeah, he's on a streak, but he got dropped by Jamie Pickett too in that fight. I think his chin is slowly deteriorating. He got dropped in both of these fights. And then before that, he lost to he lost to Marc-Andre Boreal, which he got dropped in. People thought he beat Jung Park, but I thought that was a clear Park victory from memory. And he got armbarred by Andre Muniz, which, no shame, there was short notice as well, I believe. He beat Darren Stewart. It was an awful fight. And yeah, he lost to Jotko. Sort of got a robbery over Gerald Mearshart. He beat Vinicius Moreira, but who hasn't chinned him at this point? But yeah, he's always shown to be durable. He's never really, I don't think he's ever been finished with strikes before. But he has been dropped a lot. He's been subbed. He did quit in the corner against Thiago Santos, but I mean, that's fair enough. He's getting the shit beat out of him. I'm going to say Christian Leroy Duncan I think he's going to get oh man, I don't know whether to go TKO or decision, to be honest with this. But I do think Christian Leroy Duncan will win this fight. He's longer, he's more athletic. Well, maybe not more athletic because Eric Anders, that might be all he has. But at this point, Anders is a bit older. I'd say Leroy Duncan's probably going to have more athleticism. He's more technical. He's a better striker. He'd really have to fumble this to lose. It would really be a big fumble. But he's coming off a win over Andre Puliev. He's not great by any means, and he got Gregory Rodriguez on short notice when he was meant to fight Robert Brushcheck, which is insane. Fucking, you get the harder, more seasoned opponent who steps in. That rarely ever happens. But yeah, I'm gonna say Christian Leroy Duncan gets this one done over your boy Eric Anders, and we'll say he gets a TK. Now, you know what? Let's go decision. I'm gonna say decision. I think he's gonna beat up Eric Anders, but Anders is still tough. He'll get dropped, and he'll sort of just go in survival mode where he's not, he's not going in there to win it. He's just going in there to survive. So I'm gonna go Christian Leroy Duncan to get this one done by decision. Then we got Miles Johns versus Gene Matsumoto. I'm going to go with Miles Johns in this fight. I don't think Gene Matsumoto is that good, to be honest with you guys. I thought he lost to Brad Katona. Miles Johns, he's coming off that loss of a Felipe Lima, who's good, and he gave him a tough go of things. Beat Douglas Silva de Andrade, who's a bit older. Beat Cody Gibson. Beat Dan Argueta, but he tested positive afterwards. Then beat Vince Morales before that. He's very good. He beat Adrian Yanez a couple years ago as well. That's a good win to have over Yanez. He's just a stocky guy. He can keep the fight standing and on the feet. I think he's better than Gene Matsumoto. I think he'll land a lot of big shots. Matsumoto, even before he lost to Rob Font, I picked Rob Font to beat Matsumoto. I just don't think Matsumoto is that good. I think he's just hyped up a little bit just because he's, he had an undefeated record and all that and all this. But I'm going to say Miles Johns gets a decision in this fight. especially coming off a loss. I feel like Matsumoto, now he doesn't have the undefeated record, it's probably going to be a bit more of a shell of himself a little bit. A lot of fighters, they sort of lose that confidence when they lose their O. And Matsumoto, I feel like, is going to be a guy who maybe comes in there a bit more tentative than he normally is. I'm going to say Miles Johns gets this one done by decision. Now we got Christian Rodriguez versus Andre Fili. Now, Christian Rodriguez absolutely should win this fucking fight, but he is going to find a way to fumble it. Regardless, I'm going to pick him because he should win this fight. He should beat Andre Fili in 2025. But he's not an undefeated prospect. He's a guy with 12 losses. And I don't know, Christian Rodriguez sees that in 12 losses, and, he's like, fuck. Better make me act up and fucking lose to another aging veteran, But I'm going to say Christian Rodriguez will win this. He is better. He's the better fighter. He's more durable. Andre Fili's good, but his chin is shot, to say the least. And he also got subbed by Costa, I've fought Cub Swanson, beat him. I'm just going to straight up say it. I thought Cub Swanson won that fight. Dan Ige just chinned him. Beat Lucas Almeida. Got chinned by, well, not chinned, but he got dropped a bunch by Nathaniel Wood. Beat Bill Algeo. Got chinned by Brito in seconds. Like, his chin's sort of gone. Christian Rodriguez isn't like a super powerful guy. I don't even think he has a TKO in the UFC. He's mostly just a decision guy, and I think he subbed a guy, Joshua Weems by Anaconda Choke, but besides that, it's been all decisions. And because he's not a guy who wrestles, that a big part of Christian Rodriguez's wins are fighting guys who are going to constantly shoot on him. He's going to keep it standing, beat him up. So I do worry about that aspect because, he hasn't really beat many pure strikers. Like, seriously, let's go back onto his record again, actually. Austin Bashi, grappler. Isaac Dolgarian, grappler. Cameron Saman, well-rounded, but does grapple. Raul Rosas Jr., pure grappler. Joshua Weems, I fucking don't know. I'd imagine he's a grappler. Jonathan Pierce, sort of well-rounded. Like, he doesn't really actually fought many grapplers, many strikers, sorry. When you look at it, it's mostly all just wrestlers and grapplers that he's been taking on. So I do worry about this, but I think he should, at this point in his career, surely he can beat Andre Fili. So I'm going to go Christian Rodriguez by TKO over Andre Fili. I think he's going to get his first TKO in the UFC. Then we got Lucindo versus Angela Hill. I'm going to go with Lucindo here. Angela Hill's on like a win streak, though, I believe. If I remember correctly, she is on a win streak. No, she's got a win. That's good. She beat Ketlin Souza, lost to Tabitha Ricci. And then she beat Luana Pinheiro, beat Denise Gomez. Okay, yeah, so she's got a winning last 4 fights. I'm going to say that Lucindo wins this. Lucindo's good. She's on a win streak, I believe. No, she's coming off a loss to Amanda Lemos. I think I picked Lemos to win that fight too, if I remember correctly. She beat Marina Rodriguez by split. I think that was Marina Rodriguez's last fight, if I remember correctly. No, she lost to Jillian Robinson in May. Carolina, she beat Carolina Villana. I'll just say that Lucindo's going to win. I just think she'll beat Angela Hill at this point. Let's just go Lucindo. Then moving on up, we got my boy, Astro Boy Steve Erceg versus Odie Osborne. Man, Stevie Erceg. What a tough go of things he's had lately, especially just getting an opponent for this card, for fuck's sake, man. Was originally meant to fight Alex Perez. Perez gets injured. Then he's meant to fight Hung Sung Park. Park pulls out, gets mauled the week before by Tatsuro Taira. But in steps Odie Osborne, first reported by yours truly. I'm just going to flex that I reported this. Me, Benny P, Benderman 2001. Go follow my Twitter. Steve Erceg is going to get this one done over Odie Osborne. Now, he can win this fight striking. He can absolutely go in there and knock out Odie Osborne. He could definitely beat him on the feet. But if Steve Erceg really wants to just go in there and make this fucking easy go of things, he should just wrestle. I really think he can just go in there and wrestle down Odie Osborne and snatch up a modified guillotine like early into this fight if he really wants to. Like, I really do think he could just go in there and wrestle fuck Odie Osborne and get a submission pretty early. Odie Osborne's got really bad takedown defense. He's got really bad submission defense. On the feet, he's dangerous because he is like explosive. He's powerful. He's got a long reach as well. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage here over Usyk. Like he's got he's got a good striking game to him, but he isn't very durable. He is very chinnable. He's been knocked out a couple of times in his career. He's been knocked out by what's his name, Tyson Nam. Brutally chinned him. Tyson Nam hits hard. Don't get me wrong. He should have probably beat Ronaldo Rodriguez, if we're going to be honest. Like, that should have probably been a W for him. But he still made it really close with Ronaldo Rodriguez, who in my opinion is like just awful. He lost to Jafel Filho by submission. Lost to submission by Azu Almabayev. Should have maybe lost to Charles Johnson, but it was a close fight. Got knocked out by Tyson Nam. Got knocked out by Manel Cape. He got dropped and guillotined by Brian Kelleher. But, that was upper weight class. This fight's also upper weight classes on 135. And then, the guys he's chinned, Zaruk Adashev wasn't a very good fighter. He shouldn't have even been in the UFC, if we're going to be honest. Beat Jerome Rivera. And then he got knee barred in 24 seconds, and he also lost the submission to a guy called Antonio Sanchez. So, a lot of losses. Hasn't really beat the best guys, or even really been competitive with a lot of the guys who have beat him. Like, a lot of these fights have been pretty goddamn one-sided, if we're going to be just objective about it. While Steve Usyk, yes, he's coming off a 3-fight losing streak, but with that being said, like, Pantoja was super, super competitive, and I still, to this day, think there was an argument you can give it to Steve Usyk. Kai Kara France, that wasn't as competitive, but, like, let's be fair, Odie Osborne would have got brutally KO'd out cold even quicker than Steve Usyk. Like, Steve Usyk was doing all right before he wasn't, if you know what I mean. Like, he was actually, he wasn't doing too bad in the fight. He did get chinned in the first round, so, like, it's not like he was winning like 2 rounds up and then he got caught in the third, but he was doing good in the first before he got caught. And then Brandon Moreno, he actually had a competitive fight where you can argue he won 2 rounds. He definitely lost to Moreno, but there's also at altitude, short notice. So, there's a lot going into that. And he did all right. He did a good account of himself. So against Odie Osborne, I think he's going to be much better in the boxing attributes of things. Maybe, what am I saying? He's definitely the better striker than Odie Osborne. And the only thing that worries me is Usyk's confidence coming off 3 losses. But I think he should go in there, should be able to touch up Odie Osborne, land some big shots, eventually crack the chin, and maybe either crack him, get him into a submission, or he just flatline KOs him. Or even, I could even see him just winning a straight decision. I think he's got the better cardio than Odie Osborne, especially Odie Osborne likes to move around a lot, likes to throw a lot of shots. He misses quite a bit as well. I can see Steve Usyk having the better cardio here, especially this short notice for Odie Osborne. He wasn't booked on this card or anything, so who knows what he's like. This is upper weight class as well. Who knows what shape Odie Osborne's going to be in? And Steve Usyk, I like this at 135 for him not having to cut down to flyweight. I'm sure the weight cuts aren't easy, and getting it moved up to bantamweight like a week before is probably like a really good feeling. It's not like he was bulked up or anything though, but I feel like that's maybe a bit better for him, especially for his chin. Not that his chin's bad or anything like that, but he got caught by Kai Kara. But that was almost a year ago as well. It's almost been a year since that fight actually, which is crazy. Time's moving very quick. It's almost been a year since. I think it actually generally has almost a couple of days. It'll be a year since Dricus made Izzy cry at the press conference actually. But anyway, we've got more fights to talk about. I'm going to go with Steve Usyk to get this one done by TKO over Odie Osborne. Then we got the main event, which is Roman Dolidze versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. Now, this is an interesting fight because I can see why people say this is a bad stylistic matchup for Anthony Hernandez, because we've seen if you shoot a takedown and you get that Roman Dolidze, he's pulling out weird stuff like he did to Jack Hermanson. But there's a but. Roman Dolidze's awful on the feet. I think Anthony Hernandez generally probably has the better technical ability on the feet. He's definitely got the better cardio. Dolidze doesn't have a great chin either. He almost got flatline KO'd by Marvin fucking Vettori. If Anthony Hernandez can throw a 1-2, which I know he can, I think he can just win this fight. Just a pure pressure style on the feet. Maybe dirty box, throw a lot of body shots. I think he should just break Hernandez that way. But also, if he grapples, I feel like he is, just because his cardio is so good, he won't just go in there and get he will just go for takedowns. He'll get the takedown, land a few shots, let him back up, shoot again, because then Dolidze's just going to be keep getting up and getting taken back down, and he will just win that way. Like he will just gas out Dolidze, who hasn't really shown the best cardio. You know, he wings overhands stupidly. Like he stupidly throws these big meaty overhands that aren't going to like land, or at least like there's no technical ability, there's no setup for him. He just wings big overhands, and eventually he's going to gas doing that. I also like that Hernandez has like those really unorthodox leg kick tap things he does. I think the leg kicks will be important here. I think he's just going to slow down Dolidze. I think he's going to be able to land a lot of boxing combos. And I think eventually, like, Dolidze's going to be really tired. He's just going to get really badly beaten up in this fight. You know, later. The first rounds could be dangerous, especially if Hernandez goes in there, takes him down, and, you know, you've got a fresh, dry Dolidze on his back, going for heel hooks and all these weird attacks. But I feel like he's a bit more aware on the feet than Jack Hermansson. Jack Hermansson was winning that fight against Dolidze, leg kick, tapping him, beating him up. He was winning that fight the whole time until he shot that takedown. I feel like Hernandez will probably see that and he'll realize, all right, I'm not going to introduce that early into the fight. I'm going to just strike with him a little bit. I think he'll have some success there. His striking's not that bad. Against Brendan Allen, he didn't look the best, but Brendan Allen is a much better technical striker than Roman Dolidze. Maybe Dolidze's more powerful, but I feel like Brendan Allen just has more skills than Dolidze. I feel like on the feet, they're going to box it out a little bit. I feel like Hernandez he's got the speed advantage for sure. And I think he's just going to put a bit of a pace. He's going to be like a pressure style on the feet. Pressure box him. Just land a lot of volume, I feel like. He's just going to land a lot of volume on Dolidze. Dolidze will probably get hurt because I don't think Dolidze has a great chin. And yeah, I'm going to say Anthony Hernandez eventually gets like a third, fourth round TKO over a gassed out Dolidze. So yeah, I'm going to go Anthony Hernandez to get this one done. But let me know who you guys have winning these fights. Make sure you subscribe, put on notifications. Become a member today. You know, shout out to Rick Shaw. I'm always going to shout out Ricky Shaw, my first member. You know, if you become a member, I'll shout you out at the end of all of these videos. You know, I appreciate anyone who becomes a member. It could be as little as $1.99, you know, a month. But it comes a long way with helping me with my channel. And I'll always shout you guys out. Even if I got 1 million subscribers, I'd still shout you guys all out. I'll shout all the members. You know, I'll write down a fucking list. And obviously, when it gets to a certain amount, it might be a bit hard to shout you all out. But, you know, I'll shout you guys out for as much as I can. You know, as long as, like, you know, say I had 1 million subscribers, I only have 5 members, I'll shout out all those 5 members. If I had, like, you know, 100,000 members, then that's when it gets a bit difficult. But I'll always try and shout out the members. I'll try and shout out anyone, you know, who's a big supporter of the channel. But yeah, anyway, I'm yapping on. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Put on notifications, subscribe, become a member, and I'll see you guys next time. Adios.